www.gbn.gd 5.9. This morning, as usual on this day of the week, we facilitate representatives of the government. And this morning I have joining us our officials from the Ministry of Social Development. I have currently Minister Delma Thomas, and we're expected to be joined a little later by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Chrissy Worm Charles. Good morning, Madam Minister.
Hi, good morning to you, Blossom, and good morning to the listeners of GBN and to the entire population of Grenada, Carrick-One, PD Martinique. A pleasant good morning to you. It is indeed a pleasure to be on the point normal Zoom, and since the first time I'm
Yes, and we seem to be having a little bit of issues with your connection. Your audio is going in and out a little bit. I see we are joined currently as well by the PS in the ministry. Good morning, Mrs. Worm Charles.
Mm-hmm. Good morning to you.
I'm hearing you, Mrs. Charles, but I'm not seeing you. Can you turn on your camera, please? There we go.
All right, there you go.
All right, good to go now. All right, so let's get into it. Yesterday you facilitated, or the ministry facilitated, the post-cabinet briefing in the ministry yesterday. And some of the things that you highlighted, I guess we can go a little bit more deeper into them. But first, let's start with Suicide Prevention Day, which will be celebrated tomorrow, God willing, September 10th. What are the plans of the ministry to commemorate that day?
Well, we are based on the new normal and the whole issue of the pandemic. There will be a televised address by me speaking to the nation on the whole issue of suicide prevention and how we can work with families, how you identify persons who have suicidal thoughts and how can we assist them as a ministry.
And
so that is exactly what we'll be doing. But as you know, suicide really is a global public health problem, and it really deserves the attention of all of us, especially during this period of pandemic. In the last couple of months in Grenada, we have seen, I think, 4 persons taking their lives, and it's always in challenging situation. People cannot cope with stress, and so we will see them trying to resolve the issues by taking their lives, and that is why we have to provide assistance, not only the government, but we believe that professional organizations, the churches, NGOs, and other entities can assist in working along at the community and at the family level to address issues that confront our people as it relates that will lead them to attempting or even committing suicide.
During the past, or not even during the past, but have you seen a large amount of people calling the ministry for assistance, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown?
Oh yes. I mean, the numbers we had from March to now is alarming as compared to the entire year over the last. I've been there for the last 7 years, and every year it will be 200, 300 people needing psychosocial intervention, but we have over 1,000 families or persons needing our intervention during that period. We're talking from March to now. So there are a number of families with varying issues. Remember, we are social beings, and during the lockdown, I think it was worse because we were not made to be locked down. We were made to socialize. We were made to be out, and therefore, any means of locking down is really a stress on the human, and therefore during that period we have seen a number of issues. We have seen some abuse, so we have also a lot of conflict in the home and people not able to resolve the issues, maybe spending long time. Some people realize spending a long time with the husband and with the wife, there were a lot of challenges that they didn't have when they wake up early in the morning and go to work and come back in the night and maybe just have dinner and go to bed. So many challenges we saw during that period, and we're still seeing a lot of challenges because that many people lost their jobs, and so when you lose your job and you are unable to take care of your family, then that alone is a mental stress on your entire body. And so there are a number of challenges, but as a ministry and as a government, we are committed to assisting, we are committed to provide the psychosocial support and any other support that we can provide to ensure that families can survive in this difficult period.
What sort of assistance have you been able to provide to these families who are finding it tough to deal with the COVID-19 lockdown?
Well, so we, as I said, so in terms of, we had this psychosocial team would have reached out to over 1,000 families. They were provided counseling and other support. I want at this juncture to thank the business community. Many businesses gave back and were able to reach out to the ministry privately and to the permanent secretary and the ministry staff to provide assistance that they were able in turn to be able to provide to those families that had difficult times and needed some form of tangible support. We were able to give as a government, and we were able to also get from the private sector. In fact, we had even individual, as in the parliament, maybe about a month ago, I commend a young lady who gave the ministry, she did not want her name to be mentioned. And so she came to the permanent secretary and pledged and gave, not only pledged, but gave $2,500 to support persons who had difficulties during the pandemic. And so the permanent secretary and the psychosocial team, they would have given it to the families. And they also receive other voucher assistance from businesses that PS maybe could speak about, because they are the ones that receive all those assistance, and they were the ones who distributed it. So she can maybe speak to it in terms of commending those businesses and looking forward to more assistance from more people, understanding and appreciating that government isn't able to do it alone. And even now, it's even tougher in these economic times when government is really collecting less revenue and the challenges are greater. So we continue to call on the business community, not only to reach out to government and provide us with assistance that we can give back, but even them going through the communities. We have been involved with the churches, seeking assistance. And I call on every one of us. All of us have a responsibility. If we are engaged, we are employed, even individuals, a liquor can go a long way. So if we are working and we can just give a family a tupung of flour, tupung of rice, and some meat in your community, it will go a long way in helping in this challenging and really stressful period of the COVID pandemic.
Have you seen the... Yes, go ahead, PS.
Yes, if I may, I just want to just expand a little bit on what Minister would have said, right? So during the period, we saw a lot of persons rising up, a lot of Grenadians coming forward, right, to assist persons in need. We saw persons even in the diaspora responding to the need that the needs that were presented. And so we really want to thank them and to endorse their support and partnership as we go forward. And as was said before, it's not just a ministry thing, but really and truly, it's about our people reaching to their needs and ensuring that, no one really is left behind. So the business agencies, the communities, the privaters, the persons, even who donated whatever little they had, it really counted. And I really want to say thank you very much. And I know the persons who would have been in receipt of them, they're really grateful. And I think it was just so touching, because some of our officers, joined forces with some of those agencies, in delivering and so on. And the benefits, really, really roll out in the person's lives, and we would have seen positive outcomes. So all the business communities, all the charitable organizations, I think job well done, joining together with the government of Grenada to addressing the needs of our people. And I think it really augurs well for our future. Thank you.
Has the ministry seen the need to boost its staff and in the psychosocial unit to deal with probably the influx of people needing assistance? Have you seen that need?
There is a definite need for that, right? In terms of self-care, because oftentimes, where is the caring for the carers, right? And one has to understand too as well that a lot of our carers, they do have children, they do have needs of their own. So they too are making their sacrifices. But our counseling unit normally have debriefing sessions at least every week, right, to take care of those psychological needs and those spillover effects. Because at the end of the day, they too are human beings. They too are grappling with their issues. They too have family members who have had, to experience those similar challenges. So we are very conscious of that. And so, we're even looking to expand that process where we can assist them even further, right? Because mental health, you just spoke about suicide awareness. Mental health is everything. If we are not functioning well mentally, well, then we may not be able to fully, contribute holistically to our development as well as others. You cannot assist others if you are not taking care of yourself. So we place emphasis on that. Some of our staff, they have been debriefed at different points. And so they were able to share some of the experiences that they would have encountered during the period. And so we would have been able to offer them good solutions, right? And sometimes just being there for your colleagues, and I think a word that Minister always uses is soldiering on. We work together. We are a very cohesive unit, and so we do take care of those basic needs in terms of caring for carers.
The ministry is also responsible for the housing program. Well, yes, primarily responsible for the housing program. What has that been like specifically during the pandemic? Have we seen people reaching out for better living conditions and assistance from the ministry?
All right, so the housing program, the housing assistance, more or less, it was not really material assistance during that period, but really and truly, persons were trying to see where they can live, because we had issues where landlords were threatening persons, to evict them, things like that. So we were able to work with different ministries, different offices that provide that particular service to persons who are in transient homes, right? And so we saw an increase in that, but not necessarily building assistance, because as you're aware, construction was not really in effect, but more or less persons, who are not able to pay their rent, and that was causing a bit of a trauma for them. Because if your physiological needs are not met, the challenges will be great, right? So we saw an increase in that. And we also must commend some of the landlords. Some of the landlords were very, very amenable, right? In the sense that they would have extended the service to their clients, right? So some of them would not have even taken rent during the period because some of the tenants were not working. So we do have to recognize the efforts that they have made too as well, right? In the process while persons were, on lockdown, right?
Ladies, let's take a break and then we're going to come back and speak more about some of the things highlighted yesterday, like the recertification of the seed program and others after the break. This is To The Point Classic GBN. We will be right back.
Grenada Broadcasting Network is making a platform available for the children of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique to shine. Are you between the ages of 3 and 16? Send us a video that showcases your talents. Whether it's singing, dancing, playing an instrument, reciting poetry, or a monologue, or any other talent, now is your time to shine. It's simple to enter. Just take a video of yourself performing, include your name and age in the beginning of that video, and then send that video to the email shineongbn@gmail.com. It's easy, like 1, 2, 3. The program will premiere on GBN's YouTube channel soon, so get on it. Remember, it's shineongbn@gmail.com.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
You've spoken, we have heard. Now we're making more time available for your evening primetime shows on K105. From Monday, July 6th, Your Law will air from 6 to 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, Simply Agriculture. And on Wednesdays, join discussions on constitution reform in partnership with Island Media. At 5:55 p.m., we bring you news headlines, a capsule on local, regional, and international events, followed by news at 7 via simulcast with GBN Television. Join Godfrey Augustine for stimulating discussions on Release It from 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays. GBN's K105.5 and 105.9. We're with you everywhere and anywhere. If you're on the move, catch us online at www.gbn.gd.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Minister in the Ministry of Social Development, Delma Thomas, as well as Permanent Secretary Chrissy Worm Charles. Before we took the break, we started the discussion on the housing program. Highlight or reiterate for us the criteria for the selection process for people who can benefit from the housing program under the ministry.
So the houses that we're talking about, the Chinese low-income houses, and by its name, it's really for low-income owners. However, we appreciate that there are other families who you may call middle income, who are in the public sector that need assistance as it relates to housing. So they too will be accommodated, but a large percentage of those houses will be distributed to low-income owners. However, we'll see nurses there, we'll see doctors, nurses, not doctors already, I'm not sure what doctors, but nurses, teachers, and other police officers and other sectors of persons. Even in the private sector, we'll see different people living there, but the majority of people would be from the low-income bracket. And the priority will be given to persons living in the particular parish. So for example, if there's houses in St. Patrick, and the persons who applied and once they reach the criteria from St. Patrick will be given priority as opposed to somebody applying from a different parish. As I said, we saw some of the challenges and some of the gaps with the first phase, and we are working along with the Ministry of Infrastructure, NAWASA, and other service providers to ensure that some of the issues and some of the challenges we had with the first 3 sites, we do not have them in going forward. Even some of the challenges that the homeowners are having, we are hoping to put structures in place to be able to address those particular issues that are confronting them in the first site. But we are hoping that coming to the end of the year, we would be able to see distribution of the first 3 sites. So we hope by maybe December, maybe even up to maybe early January, we'd see in Diamond in St. Mark, the Villa in St. Patrick, and Dumfries in Carriacou. And in the first quarter of 2021, and maybe the first half, we'll see distribution in Corinth in St. David's and Boucheju in St. George's.
There are also some housing-related programs under the ministry that I know, one of which started earlier this year, the bathroom and toilet facilities. So
the toilet and bathroom facilities, a new program. Is not entirely new to the government because we were doing it on a small scale before. But however, we have a special budget line now as it relates to bathroom and toilet in trying to in terms of eradicating poverty and improving the standard of living of our people. We believe that although latrine, as you call it, or although toilet should be a thing of the past. And so we are trying to see how we can eradicate outdoor latrine and to have maybe in the next couple of years, every household within our country having an in-house toilet and bathroom. And this program, government provide assistance. Government do not provide the whole amount. So for families, sometimes you have to make a contribution. And many people make the contribution of the blocks and the sand, and we give them the rest of the material, including assistance with labor, where they cannot do it for themselves. So we have been seeing toilet and bathroom erected in every constituency across Grenada. And we are hoping that with the advent of COVID-19, we started late, so we would not see the amount we expected to see in this year. But because the end of March, we had the lockdown. We walk along to improve the life of our vulnerable families, not only with bathroom and toilet, but also with water connection. We believe that water is a necessity, and every home should have access to pipe-borne water. We also, COVID-19 has also showed us that every home should have some means of internet access, whether it means that we have to work along with the service provider to have hotspots in different villages, those rural villages where you have many families who are without internet. We will be working along. We also will be providing assistance as a government for persons who do not have electricity at home, understanding that in this period, this new period, for households with families with children, electricity is needed. And while COVID-19 is not good, that also brought to us some good, whereby we can see some of the inequalities as it relates to education and address them, because education is a right of every child, and therefore, as a government, we have a responsibility to ensure that every child have access to proper education and education facilities that will enable them to be educated.
There are some members of the public who believe that some of the programs of the government, not just of the ministry, are more, you benefit more because of politics than of need. How would you respond to those claims?
Well, because we're involved in politics, you'll always have that. And remember, we are in government, and there are opposition persons who will say that. But as the minister with responsibility for social development, housing, and community empowerment, I have been consistent with my message, not only in public domain, but to my management staff and other staff at the ministry, that we are providing these programs to assist families. We have identified the need within communities, and those programs should never be specifically aimed at persons who are supporting the NMP alone. Because the truth is, then they can give responsibility to work and provide for all. So I'm consistent with my message. There's no public officer who would say that the minister say otherwise. My permanent secretary or no other person can say that I came to them and give them some other information to provide and to work with. But I've always been consistent with my message, consistent with even my housing officer. In fact, sometime last year I asked my PS to get a meeting with the housing officers, because sometimes you at your home in your living room and you're looking at the television and you are seeing families in need of housing, and you say, well, how this one passed through? How somebody within a particular area, how the housing officer did not see that person and the need of that person. And so I met with them, urging them that your work and your role is not to sit in an office. You are a field officer. You have to be going to the byways and the highways and looking for persons in need. And persons in need are not those who support NNP only, but everybody who are in need. So if there's an NDC who is in need more than an NNP, then you provide the support. The truth is, while when you're in politics, you're looking for vote. When you do things like that, the kind of gratification, the kind of feeling you get as an individual, and somebody like me, spoke the number struggle we went through as a family, having no pipe and water, having no electricity in my home, and all these things. I appreciate, and I just this morning on another program, I say, sometimes when God wants to elevate you, He allow you to go at your lowest low. He allow you to see what you'll be seeing later on happening to other persons happen to yourself. So you understand and you appreciate that there are needs and the dynamics are different. And there are persons who vote for another political organization. That doesn't mean that when you're in government, you can assist them, because that's a right our foreparents fought for. And it's something that you have to be singing every day. In small Caribbean countries like ours, you will always have people, and sometimes you're even doing, and you'll still hear people saying it's only opposition people that are getting assistance. But the persons who are supporting the opposition and are receiving assistance know that they are receiving. So even though you hear those things, there are persons who would say that there's one thing I can say, that you assist all. So I've heard that on a number of occasions already as it relates to me. But Blossom, we can't get away from the fact that there might be areas that is happening. If I sit with you this morning on GBN to the point and say that knowing that is happening, then I'll be a liar, I'll be deceiving myself. And I'm not prepared to deceive myself in any ways. So maybe this is possible. And that is why I've always said that it is not only the people within the ministry to identify needs, but the communities. I call on the churches and I call on communities to reach out, to identify persons who in need. Sometimes we become so selfish and all we concern about is ourselves and our family. And you have that in all political organizations. We have to face that there are supporters. And one must agree that we are in politics, and that's a fact. So if you say, well, you're in politics and only politician, you're doing this and you're doing that, the other. The fact that you're in politics, then everything will be seen as political. But as a human being, in assisting and reaching out, you have to ensure that as a leader, you make those decisions that sometimes are unpopular, because the truth is, you got into office because people voted you. Voted because they believe that you are able to do a job, you are able to provide them with particular services. And therefore, you have to show leadership within your different areas, leadership within your ministry, and serve humanity. So it should not be said that only NNP people get it, because people should be able to see that other persons are receiving help. And from where I sit, I know that people across the political spectrum are receiving assistance. However, I'm also aware that there might be persons who are not receiving assistance, and sometimes it's not even politics. We have had cases already where officers are not involved in politics maybe, but there are personal issues and personality clashes that have persons not identifying particular persons for assistance. And that's why I always say we need to be all there. Our role is not to sit in the ministry all the time, but even as leaders, even as constituency leaders, even as parliamentary representatives, we have to know what is happening within our constituency. And you may say, well, the minister is the one that's doing that. But the truth is, when people elected us, they expect us to be able to do certain things. That's why they elected us. So while you might always, so you'll always hear that. You'll always hear that. So if maybe if another party in government, then maybe you'll hear people from the NNP saying only these people are getting. Whereas in some instances, people from the opposition side will also be getting. But the truth is, your work should be manifesting within your constituency and within the country, so that even when people hear it or see it in social media, they can say that I know different. So we continue as a ministry, we are committed. My PS and my management team know what I believe in. They know how I speak to them on particular issues. Sometimes Blossom, if you know me very well, I cry on issues that affect people. And it's not about NMP people or whoever. One, that issue affects somebody, and I guess it's because from where I came from, and sometimes it reminds you so much of yourself that in terms of assisting and then thinking about where God take you from and where He brought you, you know that you have a bigger calling, not only for NNP, but for humanity, to make changes that will be lasting, that will be impacting, because I would not be in politics forever.
All right. Before we get to the recertification of the SEED program, let's take some comments and questions from members of the public, and then we'll get back to the SEED program. Viewers and listeners, this is your opportunity to ask questions of the Minister or the PS in relation to the Ministry of Social Development. 435-2041, that's the landline. It's also the WhatsApp. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. You can also pose your comments, questions, queries, concerns respectfully on the GBN Television Facebook page and the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. So let's take our first caller. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Blossom. Good morning to Minister Delma Thomas, and good morning to your PS. I'm very emotional this morning because the topic this morning is suicide. And I went through 3 episodes of severe depression. And during the first episode, the devil gave me a step-by-step plan to take my life. And I was in the process of doing it because even though I'm a Christian, I became hopeless. I did not see any hope. I did not see any way out. And so the devil came up with what he thought was a very brilliant plan for me to take my life. And so I was carrying out the plan step by step. But you know, as a child of God, when the devil comes with any plan for us to take our lives, God always makes a way of escape. And so God made a way of escape for me that day, and I am ever so grateful to God. And so, Minister Delma Thomas, I listen to you. Every opportunity that you get, you always speak about where you came from. You came from a family that was really, struggling, and you have not, because you're in a position, now God has placed you in a position, you haven't gotten swell-headed and forget where you came from. But every time you get an opportunity, you always tell people of where you came from, of your roots. And so, as I listen to you speak, I can hear that you are speaking with, you have a passion in your heart for people who are struggling, for people who are meeting difficulties. And I want to say openly for the whole world to hear that the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, has placed you in that position. He could not have made a better choice because you just have a passion for what you do. And I can hear it in your voice every time you speak. You speak so passionately. Okay. And I want to congratulate you for the great work that you are doing, and I want to congratulate your team for standing with you and being able to reach out to so many people that are hurting even now more than ever.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Minister, would you like to respond? Minister seems to be frozen, having some issues with her internet connection, but we still have the PS, so we'll continue the conversation. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, citizen Welsh. Greetings. Listen, there was a British sociologist stroke philosopher who said the following words: men's actions are the best manifestations of their thoughts. Note, nothing was mentioned about words. But let's go on to 2 questions. 1, can your guest, the first one would be as follows. Is your guest aware that there are people with disabilities out there, particularly, specifically, visually impaired or blind people, having to go about the country begging for food to eat? 2, can your guests tell us when they intend to make move to domesticate the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities into our local and regular laws? Thank you very much, and have a nice day, will you?
Thank you, Citizen Rollo. Minister, PS?
Well, I got disconnected. Seem to have a connectivity issue. I need to realize that something happened to my internet. So maybe PS can or maybe you can ask me the question, or PS can take the lead.
PS, you can take the lead.
All right, I can take the lead. Thank you very much. I got the second question very well, local and to regularize persons living with disabilities, the Convention for the Rights for them. All right, I know that in the past we'd have had several discussions in relation to that. And more or less, when we look around within our society and how street persons with different abilities, it opens a lot of questions, right? In terms of ratifying, I know we have a long way to go, right? And I think when we look at some of the services and so on that we provide, and even how we build our buildings, and even how we treat with persons living with disabilities, I think is a major issue, right? And we have to really go back to the drawing board to ensure that, equal opportunities are provided for all, and not just equal opportunities, but equitable opportunities, so that persons living with disabilities would not be treated differently, but that their community would be accepted rather for who they are. So we are still fighting the fight, and I wait for the day when we recognize the value and the contributions that they have made within our country, right? I think the first question in relation to food, it was not very clear to me, but
what he said was there are people living with disabilities who have fallen on hard times basically and have had to go out in the public and literally be begging for things to eat and for further assistance, if the ministry is aware of these situations.
All right. I know we have a council for the disabled who have been very actively engaged, in fact, throughout the entire pandemic, bringing food and whatever social needs to the persons living with disabilities. So I am aware of that, but not necessarily persons out there in the society, begging for food in that regard. I know if issues like that is really brought up to our ministry, we normally do our referrals. We work very close to our key stakeholders, and they normally address the issue. Okay, so that's much as I can say on that. Mm-hmm.
All right. There is a WhatsApp question. Somebody saying, we have seen the devastation the breakwater project in Sates did to the people living on the coastal areas who lost homes and land presently as we speak. The question is, would priority be given to those people in the villa project, and would there be compensation to the landowners?
Well, I cannot speak to compensation from where I sit, but what I know and what I should have said even yesterday at the post-cabinet briefing and even today is that in St. Patrick, priority will be given to those persons living on the seashore. So that is already being discussed at the level of the cabinet and otherwise. So in St. Patrick, priority will be given first to those on the seacoast, and then the rest of the units will be distributed to other families.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom and Haldau.
I'm good.
Yeah, one question I would like to ask the Minister of the PS. She mentioned the low-income people who will get the houses. Who are the low-income? She mentioned the police, nurses, and other next one, I can't remember next one. But I personally think these people, I don't think this salary is that low income much. What's a policeman's salary? I'm sure it's 2,000 plus. Nurses might be just under 2,000. Teachers might be just under 2,000. But what about the people who works in your people's home, who gets around $800 a month? I know it for a fact. Where are they getting are they coming under the high income or low income?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, caller. I think he misheard. Minister, go ahead.
No, so what exactly he said?
He was inquiring when you mentioned earlier about the families, the low-income families. I think he misheard or misinterpreted what you said when you mentioned that there are middle-income people who would benefit from the housing program, like the teachers, police officers, and nurses. So he was just asking how are police officers and teachers and nurses considered low income, but I think he just misinterpreted.
So I did not say they are low income. I said they are middle income.
Yeah, exactly.
But we believe that they are giving services, and we also believe that in communities like this, you need a mix. You don't need to only have low income owners. You need to have a mix in terms of communities. So they are working and providing services, and sometimes they fall on hardship and need assistance. Whereas most times those sectors will look for a loan and build a house, but there are people who need some assistance, and so they will be considered.
There was another question on the WhatsApp. Somebody, okay, let me read it how they posted it. I am asking that you assist a lady in the town of St. George who is not enjoying the best of health. Her sight is not good. She has been asking for assistance through the SEED program and is being denied by those at the NNP office. What how can you intervene to assist her?
So first of all, Blossom, saying that they are denied at the NNP office is only if you're saying that there's no NNP office. That's the first thing that we have to understand and appreciate. That a constituency office represent parliamentary representative. It is paid for by the government of Grenada. So this is not a party office. So, and the seat officers are not permanently based at the constituency office. They are field officers, and maybe once or twice they might visit the office to do application. Seat officers can only do application. They cannot decide who go on and go off on the program. You know, sometimes you say it over and over, but people believe because you're a politician, then maybe you're lying. No seat officer cannot decide. They can't come to the ministry and tell the permanent secretary. The only how they can do that if they lie on the application. And that is why there is an appeals committee, and that's why there's a ministry. And that's why there are independent person who can look at a case by case. So if there's a case and you believe that some issues are happening with that case, I urge you to speak to the permanent secretary, and she will direct you to someone who will be able to do the form. Persons get on the seat program only through the proxy means testing. So you do a form and it goes through a system that would either tell you pass or you fail. And I'm not saying that the system is 100% accurate, but that is the system that we have, and that is the reason why we are looking, and even with our recertification, to see there are gaps and if there are challenges, because we identify already that there are challenges, and therefore we think after 2 years there's need for a review, because remember that this program was a World Bank program for the last couple of years. For the last 2 years, it was independently owned by the government of Grenada, and therefore that's the reason why we know that we can look at all the challenges, all the gaps, and see where we can make changes. But to say that somebody deny you or somebody fail you, the only how that could happen if the person put on the form falsified information. And one of the other gaps is that the social worker within the ministry should verify that this application really failed by verifying within the community. So I cannot say that you're lying and that somebody would not put falsified information, but I'm saying that there are ways to challenge it, and you can challenge it by coming to the ministry.
Somebody else on WhatsApp is inquiring. She's a mother of 4 living in a 1-bedroom house and still use an outhouse. What can she do to get a room and bath and toilet? Or what's the application process to benefit from the program?
Well, we're talking about two different things. It is the house repair program, because there's no way we want to. In fact, one of the things we want to do as a government and as a ministry is to assist families that they no longer have to live in a 1-bedroom house with boys and girls. We have seen the number of issues that confront families. We have seen the amount of social issues. So one of the things we want to work with vulnerable families in providing assistance for house repair. So if you have a house already, because really what we have in the ministry, and I want to emphasize that, what we have in the ministry is a house repair program. It's not a program meant to build houses. So in emergency cases, in cases of fire, we assist in building back and providing assistance for building. However, that program is really a house repair program. And families with 1 bedroom with children, vulnerable families, they can access the assistance. Coming to the end, I mean, with COVID, in many cases, we do not have more funds for housing at this period. For the house repair, a lot of the constituency have already exceeded their budget, and with our revenue stream or revenue base at this time, we are not able to provide more assistance maybe until the new budgetary year. But persons living in 1-bedroom vulnerable families, will urge them to do an application and to follow up with us, because we believe that one of the programs we want to ensure is that families with children, boys and girls, living in 1-bedroom house should be a thing of the past, just like how pit latrine should be a thing of the past. And if she need assistance for the bathroom and toilet, because that program, as I said, only started in June, so we still are assisting families. However, families must make some means of assistance for themselves. So we're not just giving everything. So you have to provide for yourself, and we can provide you with some assistance. So you can check the ministry; they can provide you with the criteria and how to get on the program and to get some assistance.
The recertification of the seat program, tell me what that would involve and how it can improve the program currently.
let PS take a lead because I think I need to just stand for a while.
Sure, no problem. PS, go ahead.
Thank you very much again. So the recertification of the seed program would start pretty soon, okay? Now, the aim of it really is to update and regularize the data on the beneficiary management information system that we have. Now, every 2 years, now, I think Minister would have every 2 years, the seed program should be, persons, beneficiaries on the seed program would be recertified, meaning they have to reapply to the system. Because remember, the seed program is really and truly to assist persons as they transition out of poverty, okay? So what we are aiming to do now is to get a deeper insight into the characteristics of our current households, exactly what is happening on the ground, because we've seen certain material assistance, we have seen certain developments happening to certain families, and we have also observed that certain families are going deeper into poverty. So we need to know exactly what is happening on the ground, right? We also need to know if our operational processes is really addressing the needs of the poor, right? As we know, poverty is multidimensional, right? And in breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty, we need to address a lot of other issues. So we need to know exactly what's happening to our beneficiaries. Is it actually working? Is it supporting the families? Now, these information would also provide data for the implementation of a phase-out plan for households assessed as ineligible. All right, noting that some persons would have graduated out of the program, meaning they would have improved tremendously. Some children would have been exiting schools, for example, secondary schools, or even TAM-CC program. And sometimes some persons who have been unemployed for years would have found employment. So you would have seen certain positive changes within their households, right? So in essence, they would have graduated out of the program. So persons once on the program, they are not there forever, but really and truly, they are there in a transient process. Now, the elderlies are a totally different category, right? Our older adults who have served their country well too, and who are deemed and considered poor and who are on the program is not really looking at that particular category, right? Now, creating opportunities to enroll beneficiaries already assessed as eligible, right? So we have to create space too as well. All right, once you enter the program, once you're enrolled in the program, you definitely know that this is not forever, right? We have to give other persons opportunity, right? So that they can address some of their needs as well. Now, we also will be looking at, providing interventions when necessary for certain families, right? Because being on the ground and living, it can lead to different experiences. And we have to address some of those experiences if we truly want to see persons, graduate out of poverty. So it will be very informative for us as we plan to do our interventions that assist persons, to improve their quality of life, so that persons would move from a situation of dependency into independence. And so we have to look at that very seriously in terms of sustainable plans for our families. All right. So we don't want to really have persons, dependent upon, let's say cash transfer for the rest of their life. And the old adage, you teach a man to fish and he has fish for the rest of his life. So that is part of the program, right? And also identifying and recording emerging trends and social ills affecting vulnerable community. Our country has changed, it is changing. So we have to address some of those needs. And if we have to make the services that we provide relevant, we have to understand exactly some of the issues persons are experiencing. And also when we look at the impact on, the lockdown period, how has that changed persons' lifestyles? So we need to get a closer understanding of this process. And this was supposed to be rolled out since March, but because of the lockdown period, we were not able to do so. So now we are embarking upon this very timely process, okay? So we need to know what's affecting our country. We need to know exactly, how we can inform policy decisions in addressing poverty. And also too, the process, the seed recertification process, is a necessity. Once you enroll in the program, you are aware, I mean, persons are educated on that every 2 years, you would be up for recertification, okay? So I think that in a nutshell is some of the objectives, of the recertification program. And it's just to reinforce the need, for persons to understand that, being on seed is not forever, right? It's not forever. It's not meant to be forever. It's just meant to assist you during your low periods, to move you out of poverty so that you can stand on your own and that you can be independent, and so allow opportunities for others who may have been experiencing the same as you have. Now, the program has been successful so far. We've had persons who have graduated into, TAMCC, even SGU students, who would have gone on to SGU. So it's providing opportunities for persons who may not have had the opportunity to even enter into school. So where that is concerned, it's an important opportunity now that we conduct the recertification process. It's part of the policy, the 2 years, so we're about doing it. Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, 30 seconds as we wrap up the program?
Blossom, just to say that as a ministry, we are committed to working along with families in this crucial time, understanding the amount of challenges faced by families, and also understanding that many families are falling through the cracks. Many families have lost their job, and as a ministry, we are committed to even looking at other programs where government can assist vulnerable families, for short-term period as they try to cope and as they try to look for other means of employment during the pandemic. Our ministry is always there and willing to help. We are working across 24 hours a day in most cases, providing psychosocial assistance to families. And so in closing, I once again want to commend the permanent secretary, commend our ministry staff, our psychosocial, every team, every division within the ministry for your hard work and dedication during this period. It has been and continue to be challenging for us, but we are working together as a team, and we know that in the end we will achieve or try to achieve what in helping families to be eradicated from poverty and dealing with the whole issue of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister and PS, for sparing some time with us today. You both have yourselves a productive Wednesday.
Same to you.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was Minister in the Ministry of Social Development, Delma Thomas, and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Chrissy Worm Charles. We thank them both for being our guests this morning. And that's the end of my time today. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Point, participating with your questions and, of course, your viewership and listenership. That's the end of my time. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Until then, stay safe. Joseph is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz. Have yourselves a blessed day.